Next, we have Best Action Game, Battlefield 1, Doom, Gears of War 4, Overwatch, and Titanfall 2. Marley and I chose Doom, and I'll lead off by saying, as an action game, pure and simple, out of all these right here, when I haven't played Doom, but I've seen a lot of gameplay for it, and I saw Nate play it. You own it, right? Yeah, I saw Nate play it. Yeah. It's just it's just non-stop, like, action shooting. Like, demons coming at you all the time. It's just like, it's ridiculous. So, when I look at action game, I'm just like, Doom to me fits that bill to a T, the closest than all the other ones there. Marley, do you want to add to that real quick?
Yeah, well, I think as video games have gotten more and more complex, some of the genres have gotten kind of a little too complicated for their own good. And Doom is such a return to form. It's just like, it's pure 90s just insanity, but up-resed for today's graphics and today's machines. And I think it is the action game at its heart. And that's what all the reviews just, it's awesome just shooting things and seeing its head blow off. And it's this non-stop, like, the game does not stop from what I've seen. Like, you kind of just keep moving through it. Yeah. And, it creates this very satisfying, like, loop of upgrading and shooting and blah, and you just rush through it. And like you said, I think it is action at its purest form, where I think some of these other games have a little more thinking that you've got to do. And I think maybe Doom was the game that the genre needed this year.
Yeah. Nate, you chose Battlefield 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a shooter game, but the stories that were in it made it such a good game.
Yeah.
And so adding that on top
of
perfect
that make
mechanics,
it a great action game?
Yeah. I mean, the action was fun, too.
Yeah. The destructibility of Battlefield is ridiculous.
Like, everything, the mechanics in it, to the story, to, we talked about the music earlier, and it was just, I think it's just a solid game all around. And in an action category, it fits just as well.
Okay. Brandon and Kyle both chose Overwatch. Kyle?
I'd actually have Brandon start.
Okay.
He's played far more Overwatch than I will tag in whatever he doesn't cover.
Sure.
Right. I'm a little ambivalent about voting for Overwatch in this category versus some of these other games, because some of these other games bring what some might classify as more of a complete package, in that they have a story mode that Overwatch is lacking. However, the game design and just the design in general, and the level design, and the way that the action flows through a map in Overwatch, with the way that they've designed these characters, is so great. Especially when you're working with asymmetric level design, you have to be so careful. And like, there are some places in the game where it doesn't really work. There are some points in some maps where it's just like, this is so frustrating. But for the most part, it works. And when it works, it's so good. And I feel that can be limiting to some games where you have a story mode and multiplayer. Sometimes things can feel a little repetitive. And with Overwatch, I just have so much respect for their sticking to the form of all of these characters move and interact with each other and the world in different ways. And they're all going to be fighting each other in this high energy, fast-paced combat. And to design a game where there's these differences in flow, alternate routes you can take, focused choke points, and designing the maps in which Blizzard can control the points of conflict along the map through the match, is just, it's impressive. And I have to vote for, that them meticulously taking the time to formulate really good design.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I think you nailed it really well. I think the other games maybe provide a narrative that gives a more complete package, with the exception of Doom. But I think that the raw focus on the enjoyability of the action of Overwatch qualifies it for the winner of Best Action Game. Because everything about the action in Overwatch is engaging, it's fun, and it's challenging. And it drives players to improve because the action is so fundamental to it. Because the story's in the background. the action is everything in Overwatch, and it's executed so perfectly, it's balanced so excellently, and it's fun. Like, being able to spider climb like Spider-Man with Widowmaker, or jet jump, or roll out of the way, or charge, and the sheer versatility of the characters makes the gameplay of Overwatch so wonderful and absolutely, in my mind, qualifies for best action.
It's difficult to try out all the characters in Overwatch and not find one that the mechanics and the way they fight, it's difficult to play through all of them and not find one of them satisfying.
Well, it was built in the spirit of every great action game for the past 20 years. So, like, every creator's favorite parts of those action games are a core of this. So, to me, I think that contributes to it being so good.
All right. Next, we have Best Action/Adventure Game. Nominees are Dishonored 2, Hitman, Hyper Light Drifter, Ratchet & Clank, and Uncharted 4. We have 3 people that voted for Uncharted 4. That was Brandon, Marley, and Nate. Nate was the only one that played the game, I believe. Nate, do you just want to hit on that real quick?
Sure. I mean, the Uncharted 4 is, like, just the whole action adventure. I mean, it's what it is at its heart, this treasure hunt. So, I mean, it's the perfect game for that.
It's Indiana Jones,
yeah,
right? Like,
it is. And I'm a little biased because I've been, like, in this whole obsession with treasure hunters for the past, I don't know how long.
It's been like a year.
Yeah, it's been a while that I've been on this, like, treasure hunt.
It's a strong obsession. My obsessions come in, like, 1 to 2 month bursts.
So, I mean, it's just, it hit the nail on the head for me on what an action-adventure game should be.
Okay. Marley?
My pick was purely political, so...
Cool.
There it is.
Brandon?
Oh, I mean, again, I think I'm going to leave it to Nate's description. I feel bad talking about a game that I haven't played, so...
Sure. Hyper Light Drifter.
All right, so...
4 hours later.
So I talked about why I like the game earlier for independent games, so I'll try to keep this as action-adventure oriented as possible. And having talked about action games just recently, the reason I think Hyper Light Drifter takes adventure game to me, and this is a very personal decision, politically I think Uncharted 4 will probably take it, and that's because it takes you on a great adventure.
Right.
To me, though, Hyper Light Drifter is a great adventure game because you want to adventure. It gives you that drive. It makes you the adventurer in this world that you know nothing about, and therefore it makes a beautiful adventure game because everything you discover is brand new and you want to find it. Not because Nathan Drake wants to find it, not because the story's telling you to find it, but because you're exploring dungeons and temples and fighting monsters because you're fascinated with learning more, and that to me is an adventure game.
Cool. I chose Ratchet and Clank as a political dark horse, kind of. Like, I would agree that Uncharted 4 might win, but I'm hoping... Ratchet and Clank was a really good game. I didn't play it, but I watched you play it, and I watched a lot of reviews and gameplay of it. It looked like a lot of fun, and, like, these two, like, fun little cartoon characters, and there's a lot of, like, witty dialogue. Like, I thought it was kind of like a neat, like, adventure to go on with those characters. So I'm going to vote for Ratchet and Clank there. So next we have Best Role-Playing Game. Nominees: Dark Souls 3, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, The Witcher 3, Blood and Wine, WoW, Legion, and Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Wow, Legion.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, it sounds like a "that's what I call music" video game.
Nate,
It's about Satan.
Nate, do you just want to briefly
Wow, Legion.
touch on
It was
Legion?
a tough call between Legion and The Witcher because
Yeah.
Blood and Wine was amazing. But I am a huge WoW fan, and Legion I think just was their best expansion in a long time. It's pulled me back really hard into the game.
Yeah.
And they fixed a lot of issues that were broken and dumb before. And I just think it's a best choice.
Okay. Brandon, you chose Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, I think in terms of a role-playing game where, you know, the central focus, the reason why I play role-playing games is to customize the character and feel like, at least for me, my personal experience in role-playing games is to sort of channel myself as this, if I was in this world and playing this game, you know, who would I be? And, you know, obviously people play differently. Some people want to channel a different kind of person. Some people want to inhabit the role of a separate person. And Dark Souls where it's more like a blank slate character that you get to entirely fill. I like that. And then the world of Dark Souls has this deep lore that is so mysterious. Even like if you do your research on it, you don't understand everything that's going on. So it has this mystery, and it has awesome online and offline play with combat that is so challenging and really fun to experiment and expand upon, and just they do a good job of giving you tools to play the game, but the mastery of those tools is what's required to, complete the game. So, I mean, in terms of game design, I like that. But if we're talking about entirely the role-playing elements, World of Warcraft, does some really good role-playing things. But at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know about Legion. I haven't touched on it before. But in my experience, World of Warcraft, while I love it, a few too many Skinner box designs in the way you need to progress through the game for me. And I haven't played Deus Ex, and I've started The Witcher 3, and I'm really liking it. But Blood and Wine is an expansion that I've heard is great, but Dark Souls 3 is a full game. So for me, it's got my vote for those.
Okay, Kyle hit off with Witcher 3 and Blood and Wine.
I'll first start
Keep it
by
brief.
saying
Somehow keep it brief.
my shame with Nate and Carson,
It was really
because
tough.
both of
It
you
was
have
really
played
tough.
Witcher 3. You picked Xenoblade over Witcher 3 for a
I
role-playing
really
game.
like
Yes,
that
you can at least
game.
understand
Blood and
Mark
Wine
Jones.
is also an expansion, though. It's
Which
not a...
is the amount of content you'll get from most games
All right.
nowadays.
Just Blood and Wine was an expansion, but it was a whole separate.
It was a
game.
whole game. Like,
It was
Go
amazing.
into it. Just
okay,
so
keep,
we're gonna go
somehow
into
keep
it.
it brief.
I will try to keep
All
this
right.
brief.
Witcher 3 won everything last
Witcher
year, too.
3 won everything last year, like Lord of the Rings, and they cleaned house like the Rohirrim at the Battle of Pelennor Fields. Witcher 3 Blood and Wine in
That was a
itself
messy cleanup.
was a brand new game.
Theoden
was
died.
Beautiful. And from a role-playing game perspective, if you want to jump in a clean slate character, good for you. If you want to play a really good role-playing game, you would vote for The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine. And it just continues to do the thing that CD Projekt Red does, which is make brilliant role-playing games and just continue Geralt's story and sort of almost start over in Geralt's, not start over, but tell a new story. And it's dynamic, it's political, it's fantastical. You're in a brand new zone that feels new, and you're torn up about the whole game. And I went doing everything I felt was right, and I had the saddest ending possible.
Yeah, we both got the same
And
ending. It was terrible.
It was so heartbreaking, and it was beautiful. And the ending, as a Witcher fan, was everything I ever wanted, because it was the end of Geralt's story, and it really satisfied me at the core of my fan love, and as a lover of role-playing games, it was perfect. Carson, you can talk about
All right.
Xenoblade,
Well-
but I know you don't like it as much as Witcher 3.
I'm going to say this right now. What Kyle just said, all of it's true.
All
Okay?
of it.
But my pick is somewhat political, unfortunately. I think there's going to be some snooty people, like in the voting awards, that would say this is an expansion. It won everything last year. Let's give it to something else. I really think there are enough people out there that are going to sway it. And I'm kind of that mind a little bit. Like, I love that game, but it's an expansion. And when I play Xenoblade, like, I wish Witcher Blood and Wine was in the narrative section. I don't know why it wasn't.
That's a
Because
good
the
point.
story
That's a
is
solid
so
one.
good.
The story's amazing.
The story's so good, it should be in the narrative section. So,
Agreed.
to me, that's my biggest disappointment out of this list so far.
I think Brandon's the biggest disappointment out of this list because he still hasn't finished Witcher 3.
So, Xenoblade to me was like a huge surprise. It came out of nowhere for me. I'd never played any of the Xenoblade games before. And as like this character, you're kind of a blank slate character. You make your character at the beginning. But the story that unfolds and presented to you, there's a lot of twists and turns throughout this long 100-hour like plus campaign.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting the depth from it. Like, it's not even close to Blood and Wine in terms of story, but I really did get invested into the game and the characters around me. even though some of their facial expressions are really weird sometimes. Again, it's not on the same level as Witcher 3.
Is that the one game with the weird music choice?
Yes.
The music is very hit and miss in that game. When it hits, it's awesome. When it misses, it's really, really bad.
Yeah.
But I think to me, it's another dark horse pick on my side. Like, I think there might be enough fans out there that will kind of see it and be like, oh yeah, this was a really good game. I'm going to vote for this.
You pick another dark horse pick, I'm going to start calling you Katy Perry.
So, Marley, do you want to hit on that?
You know, I've kind of gotten to a point where I'm a little tired of open world games. I think it's become the go-to for like every studio now. Let's just make an open world game, and it gets to a point where it's not central to the game design. They just do it just to do it. Xenoblade was the first open world game in a long, long time that I got really, really invested in. I loved the environments, I loved the characters, I loved the mech design. It was, you know, it's been a while since I've done this, but when I first got Xenoblade, one of the first things I did, and I spent like hours doing it, I just walked around the map exploring, looking at all the weird animals and all the weird plants and all the weird environments and the little nooks and crannies you could explore. And then I loved all the different ways you could customize your character, whether it be through the strange outfits or but like their weapons and fighting styles too.
Yep.
It's a game that really, really sucked me in, and it's like you get a lot of game for what you're paying. It's like so much. I didn't beat it, but I enjoyed all of my time with it. And it's one of those games, whenever I do pick it back up, I'm always finding new stuff. And I really feel like an explorer in this world. And
cool.
I loved it.
Cool.
Big disclaimer. I'm glad you really enjoy Xenoblade, but don't say you're tired of open world games until you play Witcher 3.
I haven't played it for that reason. I'm just so tired of open worlds.
No, you are doing yourself a big disservice.
Witcher 3 is freaking
I'm also I'm not gonna go back and play 1 and 2. Like
you don't have to.
These
guys didn't.
I played 1.
Brandon didn't.
I'm one of those guys though that I can't do that.
I will beat the shit
like
out
if
of you.
I know
I will fight you physically.
Especially with like, cause can't you carry over save stuff?
No,
it's very minor.
I still won't do it. If I can't. That's why I didn't play Inquisition, because I didn't play 1 and I didn't beat 2.
I'm sad. You know how sad you were gonna be if I didn't like Hamilton?
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling right now.
Witcher
is my Hamilton.
Moving.
And I love Hamilton.
Moving along, I'm briefly just gonna say best fighting game. None of us really have strong opinions on best fighting game here. A bunch of us chose Street Fighter V. I think that's probably gonna win. That got the most buzz. So
I'm gonna vote for Hyper Light Drifter.
So let us know. Let us know in the comments what you think is best fighting game. Street Fighter V is probably gonna win. Moving on to best family game, we have nominees of Dragon Quest Builders, Lego Force Awakens, Pokemon Go, Ratchet & Clank, Skylanders, Imaginators. So, 2 of you picked Skylanders, Imaginators. That was Kyle and Brandon. Briefly, just tell me why.
The families that I know, this is Kyle. The families that I know that play it, it's something they all play together. The kids love collecting the toys. The parents can get them the toys and buy some of their love. But it seems something that they enjoy, and they enjoy for a long time. More than the others stand out to me. Pokemon Go, I can see how that could work with families. Lego's obviously a family thing, but in the experience with families that have games, Skylanders is the game they play.
Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I can see a good argument for Pokemon Go, where like a lot of people were getting involved with it, but at the end of the day, I feel like it was mostly people just walking around looking at their phone catching Pokemon. They talk about it and they interact with each other about it, but for me, a good family game is not only something you talk about, but something you play together. And for many of these, for the Skylanders, you know, for a lot of kids, like the parents help them get the toys, and maybe the kids are like, hey, let's look, you know, let me show you this character that, you know, that we got in the game. And you know, looking at it, like, it's a game that, you know, if I had kids, this is a game that I would like to, you know, go out and be like, I got us 2 new figures, and we're going to play together. Like, Ratchet and Clank has, like, a family-friendly sort of Some of the jokes are adult, but that's, Shrek has a bunch of adult jokes. But a lot of these games are single player. Lego Star Wars, all the Lego games have nice multiplayer in them. And kids and parents both like Star Wars. But I mean, I like the way that Skylanders handles a lot of their gameplay and it sort of sucks that you have to just scalp children's parents for money so that they can play this game. But
or adults who probably collect way too many toys,
Or
like myself.
yeah.
I just bought Lego Dimensions, so that's a rabbit hole I'm diving into.
Nate chose Lego The Force Awakens. I'm guessing you're maybe banking off the Star Wars hype.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
It's coming off of that. Plus, Lego games are just super fun.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Pokemon Go is Marley's choice.
Yeah,
Try and keep it brief. We gotta keep going.
a lot of the reasons that I picked it for best handheld mobile, but once again, like when I was working at my local grocery store, a lot of the people that I saw playing Pokemon Go were either big brothers and little sisters, or little brothers and vice versa, or moms and their kids. It was a way for kids to kind of interact with their parents through this device that the parent controls, but also for a way for the parents to get involved with this thing that the kids love. And I think Pokemon Go, once again, was just like a great social tool, and it just brought people together, and I think a lot of families play it together.
Awesome. I chose Ratchet and Clank. I think the humor is a really big aspect of that. I think parents and children can both appreciate it on different levels there. Much like a Pixar movie does that as well, and a lot of animated films nowadays. It seemed like a very fun game, so I went with Ratchet and Clank there.
That and families can bond over how much they hate the movie.
That movie was so bad. It was so awful.
Alright, so best strategy game, we got Civilization 6, Fire Emblem Fates, The Banner Saga 2, Total War, Warhammer, and XCOM 2. 3 of us picked Banner Saga 2, and that was Carson, Brandon, and Kyle.
You're Carson.
Yep, that's me.
That's you.
Them's those
Saga-
words people call you sometimes.
Banner Saga 2 is a little bit less known than Civilization 6 and Fire Emblem Fates, and probably Total War, and XCOM 2 probably too. It's probably the least known out of all of them. So I'm hoping maybe it can Dark Horse. Nah. I'm hoping
He's gonna kill our friend right here on this podcast.
No, I'm just gonna call him Katy Perry.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you were gonna kill him.
No, I said I was gonna kill you.
I think
Oh, okay.
I think the gameplay is very unique in how it weaves in with the narrative. You having to kind of like keep your band alive, and it's kind of similar to Fire Emblem. There's permadeath in there. Characters die, they're gone. So I think it's really interesting in strategy games. And it's kind of a newer franchise in Fire Emblem, so I went with Banner Saga 2 on this one. Kyle, you just want to briefly touch on?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Banner Saga 1, and I like that intimate strategy game where you get invested in characters and you build them up, and they get stronger, and then they die. I'm kind of disappointed that Darkest Dungeon isn't in this category
That would've been
this year,
awesome.
because
Yeah.
that game is like Banner Saga, but even more just like, ugh.
Soul crushing.
It's just so frustrating, but so good. But Banner Saga 2 is in the similar vein, and Civilization has a lot of clout. It'll probably win, that's the political vote. But I want Banner Saga 2 to win because I prefer that type of strategy game, and I like this series.
Cool, Brandon?
Banner Saga 2 and Fire Emblem Fates for me sort of overlap in a lot of the things that I like about these kinds of strategy games. But I gotta vote for Banner Saga 2 because I think that, like you said, I think it's a little less known, and I love voting for underdogs. So
Cool. Nate chose Civilization 6, political?
Yeah.
Political, yes. That's totally cool. XCOM 2 was Marley's choice.
Purely political.
Purely political. That is also very popular.
And none of us voted for Warhammer because, unfriend us if you don't. If you do, I hate Warhammer and everything about it.
why?
I hate that grim, dark feel. Like, it's just dark for the sake of it.
Its style doesn't make any sense.
So many things in Blizzard's design are inspired by Warhammer.
Well, they do it well, and Warhammer makes it look obnoxious, and they
All
take
right.
up 90% of
All
the
right.
hobby shops that I want to buy D&D shit at.
Okay.
It's just...
We
Oh,
just
no,
made a
no,
bunch
no,
of
no,
enemies on the internet.
I just don't like the grim, dark, like, oh, everything is all sad all the time.
Okay.
All right, moving
I'm with Kyle on this.
moving to best sports and racing game. none of this.
No one cares.
No one here cares about this category, so we're kind of omitting it. But
I'm not gonna fight them on this one.
I'll quickly say what they are: FIFA 17, Forza Horizon 3, MLB The Show 16, NBA 2K17, and Pro Evolution Soccer 2017. There you go. You can feel free to let us know in the comments what you chose here. Yeah. So, best multiplayer game, we got Battlefield 1, Gears of War 4, Overcooked.
Why don't you just say
Overwatch and Rainbow Siege 6.
And Titanfall 2.
We all picked
And
Overwatch.
Titanfall 2. We should at least say the whole list. Titanfall 2 is on that list.
It is? I don't have it on my list here.
It's on the website.
Well, that changes my
I
entire
missed
opinion.
it.
I still pick Overwatch.
So Titanfall 2 is also on there, but we resoundingly picked Overwatch here. We've all talked about Overwatch quite a bit already.
Yeah.
I have something
So-
that I didn't touch
Okay,
on.
Brandon,
I'd like to bring up.
please say what you have to say, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
Because we've said a lot about Overwatch.
So Overwatch, more than all these, like I played Overcooked, and it's a blast. It really is. But what Overwatch brings to the table that some of these other multiplayer shooters don't is that there's such a diverse skill set and game experience that you can bring to this game and enjoy it. If you have MOBA experience, your skills are viable in Overwatch. If you play RTS, your skills are viable in Overwatch. If you played CSGO, your skills are viable in Overwatch. If you've only played MMORPGs like World of Warcraft, your skills are viable. And so we're getting this cool...
Are your skills viable? I just want to make sure.
Your skills are viable.
Okay, all right.
You get this cool melting pot of different players all playing this FPS, and you've created a really cool experience where, like, I've never really gotten into first-person shooters outside of Halo 4 I got into, and what was another one? Transformers War for Cybertron doesn't count because it was third-person perspective. But, like, I got into those, but I never really touched on that sort of genre before. And so just starting to play, I played a lot of tanks and some support in Overwatch, but now I'm starting to go into more of the skill shot, actual hit scan accuracy characters. And so it's a nice way for a bunch of different kinds of gamers to enjoy a game all together without it being broken up into subset game modes. So in terms of bringing people together into a multiplayer scene, that and everything else we've talked about,
Yep.
kudos.
Yeah, I think Overwatch is going to be the popular choice, and I think it really should win. Like,
Oh, yeah.
if it doesn't
It's a
win here, I'm
phenomenon.
going to be severely disappointed.
Well, it's the first-person shooter game. Like, there are a couple, like, people in the community that are trash. That's a given. But, like, for the most part, like, Overwatch has communication baked into it. And most people know if you treat people like trash, you're not going to win. So, like, a lot of my Overwatch interactions have been positive ones. It's about, like, helping people, like, oh, why don't you switch over to this character? Why don't you play this? It's the first-person shooter where I've felt useful to a team, much like what Brandon said. Like, if I'm not good at doing this, there's a character that can do this. Whereas in something like COD, I'm just always outclassed. It's really fun, and it does a great job of bringing people together.
Yeah. So second to last category, most anticipated game. We have God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Mass Effect Andromeda, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Zelda Breath of the Wild.
This is loaded.
This is a really all these games are super anticipated. So Brandon and Kyle both chose Horizon Zero Dawn. Brandon, do you want to just lead off on why?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by a new title above all else. Everything else on this list is a sequel or just a new game within a franchise. So I'm excited to explore this new world, which has shown a very exciting sort of contrast in both design elements and game elements. And I'm super curious to learn more about this game. Post-apocalyptic has been hit so hard in these past couple of years. It's been a very common theme. And so to take that and have it feel super fresh with, like, primitive man hunting animals. Okay, well, we've seen that, but they're robots. It's just like, this is really interesting and really cool. And I'm above all else, I'm excited for a new original IP. Like,
Yeah.
that alone makes me excited.
Kyle?
Yeah. My knee-jerk reaction was to vote for Red Dead Redemption because I love the first Red Dead Redemption. I love Westerns. But Horizon Zero Dawn, much to what Brandon said, offers something brand new, and that's very intriguing, and that gives me a lot of anticipation for it. I love big, open, like, primitive fantasy games, and giant robot dinosaurs is amazing. So I think the appeal and a lot of my anticipation for this comes from this idea of something brand new, and I'm very excited for what this has to offer. All the other games I imagine are going to be like their previous versions with much more to offer, probably with the exception of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I think will offer brand new things for Zelda fans. But for other returning franchises, Zelda's not really on my top 10 list. But Horizon Zero Dawn is up there because of the new possibilities.
Cool. Nate chose Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, I mean, the game I'm looking forward to the most is Horizon Zero Dawn, but
Well, that's what this is we're talking about.
no, I want to pick the one that I think is going to win it.
Oh, this is a political
Oh
thing.
no,
Yeah.
this is a category.
It's a category. So the two that I think it's going to get close to is Zelda and the Red Dead Redemption. And out of the two, I picked the one I was looking forward to the most.
So half political.
So it's half political.
Yeah.
I chose the one that I think has the best chance of winning of the games I really am looking forward to.
Okay. So Marley and I both chose Zelda Breath of the Wild. Marley?
So when the E3 footage was revealed, first of all, when E3 happened, Nintendo's like, we're only bringing Zelda, and everyone was pissed. They're like, how can you do this? Then they showed off the Zelda footage, and everyone all of a sudden forgot that anger.
Yeah.
Because the game looked incredible, and it won almost every most anticipated game from E3 award from like every outlet. And this was when that game was showing on a Wii U, a dead console at that point. Now we have the reveal of the Switch, which has been overwhelmingly positive. I think the reveal trailer has hit 10 million views in like less than 3 days on YouTube. And this game is coming to that. I think the already existing hype, plus combined with the hype for this new system, plus, I mean, it's Zelda. Like, very few game companies have the notoriety with their franchises that Nintendo does. I think those three factors are really going to elevate it to the top. But this was a super hard category to pick something for because I'm super interested in Horizon. I love Mass Effect, and Red Dead 2 looks awesome. Rockstar's a great studio, but I think Nintendo's just kind of brewing the perfect storm for like game hype.
Yeah, I totally agree with Marley just said about Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's my favorite franchise. It's been stewing the longest out of any of these games, so the anticipation, I feel like anticipation is just building and building and building, and now with the Switch release, now we know it's coming on a new console. It might look a little bit better on the Switch. It's just, all these other games are super anticipated as well, but Zelda, with so many fresh new things coming to the franchise, it's just, to me, it's heavy hitting enough that it's going to win this category.
Well, and like no disrespect to like these other games on the list, but none of them have the legacy that a Zelda game has.
So yeah.
You know, I think that's gonna factor into a lot of critics' choices.
Yes. All right, final category, Game of the Year. All right, so we have Doom, Inside, Overwatch, Titanfall 2, and Uncharted 4. 3 of us chose Uncharted 4, and that was myself, Kyle, and Nate. My choice was purely political. I haven't played the game, but this is the end of a franchise. To me, that means so much. Where these characters are probably done, maybe not forever, but for a long time.
For a while, yeah.
I feel like they ended it super well from what I've seen. This is like the end of a story. And to me, they sent it out so well. So I think Uncharted 4 is going to win. Kyle?
Yeah, my vote's entirely political, and for many of the same reasons that you offered. I'm excited to play Uncharted 4, but because it's the end of a franchise, because it's being nominated for so many things, it's been reviewed very highly. There's no reason it shouldn't take Game of the Year, especially against Doom. Why is Doom nominated for something?
I'm not sure why
Dude,
Doom's here.
Doom kicked ass with the critics and
Yeah.
stuff. Like,
It was fun, but I don't think it was that great of a game.
Nate, you chose Uncharted 4 as
There's
well.
a lot
yeah.
of the same reasons I talked about earlier throughout all the different Uncharted picks. But yeah, it's the end of the whole series. It deserves it.
Yeah. Marley and Brandon both chose Overwatch.
Yeah.
Marley?
I think Overwatch took the FPS and kind of flipped it on its head, but also at the same time it was comforting and familiar, and it just, everyone that I hear talk about it loves it. Now, my choice was kind of half and half political because a lot of the gaming outlets I pay attention to, they loved Uncharted 4, but there was always an asterisk there. It was always like, I love it, but it doesn't do this thing as well as 3. But it doesn't do this thing as well as 2. You know, it was always, you know, I really like this, but I kind of wish that they had done this thing a little differently. Like, people love it. It's a Naughty Dog game. I think they're almost incapable of making a bad game at this point. But it seemed like as much as people loved it, there were these little things that chipped away at it for them that I think are gonna knock it down. And I think Overwatch has, I think, the most mass appeal. You know, it's not a console exclusive, so it's in more people's hands. And it's a really, really fun, great game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything Marley says is true. When we were talking about which games we were voting for here, I voted for the ones that I wanted to win.
Sure.
I think Uncharted, because, you know, when in Game of the Year, the jury is really looking at a game that covers all the creative and technical elements in the game experience as a whole. With that in mind, Overwatch being a multiplayer-only game, I think since it doesn't have like the narrative as much, like in-game narrative and story elements and performances that Uncharted does, like Overwatch as an experience, it has the comics and the shorts to supplement that story. But we have to look at these in terms of the awards. The game needs to stand on its own, and I think for Game of the Year, I think Overwatch, and in my opinion, I think it deserves the award. But thinking about it realistically, and I voted for it because it's the game that I know. But Uncharted 4, you know, a lot of people talk about, you know, their good gaming experiences, but I think it being the end of a very long franchise, one that involves gameplay and good performance and storytelling, I think makes it a prime contender for winning Game of the Year. But, you know, for all the things that we talked about Overwatch throughout this, you know, discussion of ours, you know, Blizzard just hit so many good beats with the design of this game. And if it weren't for the fact that there isn't a story mode in this game, I think Overwatch would have it in the bag. Like, if they had, like, as good of a story mode, then they would, you know, as, like, an Uncharted game or, like, something like that, which, you know, the story of Overwatch, if you dig into the lore, is really interesting. And I'm excited to see, like, and all their animated shorts are beautiful. And I love the stories in those. And those small little tidbits of story that we get are fantastic. But for the game standing on its own, I think Uncharted will win, but I think just, like, the amount of effort and painstaking dedication to quality, I think earns Overwatch that spot. Not to say that these other games don't have high quality in their end result, but, you know, many games when they're released have to be patched immediately because they're unfinished. And I'm not saying these other games aren't in there, but Blizzard just, I feel like they've constantly been sort of pushed off to the side because their games are just do so well universally. And I like that one of their titles are actually coming up here for like Game of the Year because they don't often show up, I feel. So I think Overwatch deserves it just for the amount of effort that Blizzard put in, but I think Uncharted will get it.
All right, so that rounds it out for all the categories that we had this year.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for joining in our discussion here.
Absolutely.
I thought we brought up a lot of good points about all these games, and I also want to let everyone know, like, you know, there's a lot of opinions out there, so try not to get too mad at anybody else with another opinion.
Or do.
Yeah,
Or
and we
do if you want.
didn't touch too much on like the fans' choice for some of the esports stuff, but you know,
This is already a long-winded
Yeah.
as it is.
So so let us know what you guys thought should win certain categories in the comments below. You can find Kyle and Brandon at the Geek XP on YouTube. You can find Marley at Marley D on YouTube, and Nate and I, of course, are on Safe Station. So thanks everybody for listening/watching, and we'll see you at your next save.
Adios.
Bye.